America. My name is Osei-Frimpong. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about freedom, fear, and FOMO. FOMO is the fear of missing out. And the fear of missing out is real because you might actually miss out. Things are different out there. You screw up your kids growing up, you just missed out. There's no getting that back. You just screwed up your whole life and their whole life, all because you made the wrong decisions about what to do with your time. So the fear of missing out is real. It could be missing out on experiences. It could be, and this is the most important part, it could be morally arbitrary decisions you make where the satisfactions are slightly different, whether you become a butcher or whether you become a baker. Right? It really doesn't matter which one you do, but the satisfactions are going to be slightly different. So you need to have faith in the decision you make and what that means. And for your life, because the satisfactions are going to be slightly different, even if they're not, like I said, even if it's a morally arbitrary situation where one's not better or worse for the sake of justice. So the fear of missing out is real, and it takes faith in order to sustain a particularization. So a particularization is just a particular way of doing your family, a particular way of doing your job, a particular way of living your life. There are lots of different particular ways of doing life, and they're all kind of necessary because they work together. Butchers need bakers, who need roofers, who need plumbers, but the same person can't do them all with the quality that we need in a modern society. So you need to particularize. If you want a meaningful life, you got to particularize. You got to be excellent at one thing, but there is going to be the things that you're not excellent at because you spent your time particularizing your excellence in one way of being. So if you're going to be meaningful in anything, you have to particularize. But when you particularize, that means you're forsaking, you're drawing a distinction between yourself and the thing that you are not. And even if the thing you're not is a good thing in itself, it's not going to be you. So its satisfactions are not going to be your satisfactions. You're going to have different satisfactions. And you're going to think, well, what if I did that other thing? Maybe I should have done that other thing. And that's going to be the enemy of freedom, because if you don't particularize yourself, you're not actually self-determining. You're just indeterminate. You're not a thing. Right? So you're going to have to pick a thing, and then that thing's going to be not doing the other thing, and then the other thing is going to seem attractive, and you're going to have faith that you made the right decision, and there's not going to be a reason. Right? So this, if you have kids and they play instruments, at some point in time, especially if you started them young, they're going to say it's going to get hard, and they're going to want to switch. I'm sure if you're kids and they played sports, it's going to get hard or competitive, and they're going to want to switch. Or switch emphasis. I think kids should play multiple sports for a few different reasons, but they're going to want to switch the focus because it got hard. And the other sport's a good sport, or the other instrument's a good sport. If you start out with violin, they're going to want to play piano when a violin gets hard. When they start out with piano, they're going to want to play violin when things get hard. And you have to encourage in them the faith to stick it out, because there's no reason why one instrument's better than the other. There's no reason why one sport's better than the other. There's no reason why one occupation is better than the other. And we can't pretend that there's a reason, because it's good that some people play one and some people play the other. But you have to accept what's yours as a matter of faith, that the satisfactions that are not yours for the other thing are not something that are worth like jeopardizing your particularization for, or your particularization in your thing for. Right? So if you're going to be self-determining, that means you're going to particularize yourself. You're going to determine yourself. You're going to do this and not that. But that also has satisfactions. That the thing you're not doing also has satisfactions that will seem that you're not going to get while you do this thing that you do. It has other satisfactions. So you're going to have to forsake those other satisfactions. Freedom is about forsaking other satisfactions for the sake of being the real thing that you are in an arbitrary way, because you could have been that other thing. But yet, for no reason, just as a matter of faith, you have to stick with what you do. And so this works out in a few different ways in kind of our lives. Freedom entails a quality of double faith, right? So you have to have faith in your particularization. You also have to have faith that other people will accept your particularization as useful and needful, and will uphold you in your particularization, right? Sometimes we live in a market society. The market shifts. I particularize myself as a beeper salesman, before the iPhone, and then all of a sudden the market shifts. And I get punished for actually committing to my craft. Right? So you have to have faith that the market will respect your craft, your particularization, or you will never actually particularly become a thing, and for fear that the market will cease in its dynamism to respect your craft. Now, in relationships, this also takes on becomes relevant, right? So you particularize yourself in a certain way of doing your family, and then all of a sudden your spouse, for some reason, thinks that, well, I could be happier in this other particular way. And they might be right, but they should stick with you anyway, or you should stick with them anyway, because you have to have faith in the way that you've particularized yourself if you want your family to be anything. You can't let FOMO destroy your family. It's the same principle. It's not going to have all the satisfactions of all the other ways of doing life, but it is yours. And if you want to do your life in any meaningful way, you got to stick with it. People don't take this seriously, and it turns out that their kids and grandkids. I'm starting to think that you really don't know how well you do parenting until you look at your grandkids. If your grandkids are trash, that means you screwed it up. I think I judge parents on their kids too, but I think the grandkids is a better judgment, because there's so many judgments there's so many moves that are out of your hands that you had to have been a good parent to inculcate the principles of good judgment onto your kids for them to not screw up your grandkids. So I think grandkids are a good proxy for good parenting. By the way, so the thesis of this video is that you need faith in your particularization, and you need faith in other people's faith in your activity, in your particular activity, for this to work, for you to be free. So your freedom depends on other people having faith in you. And this becomes very clear in any sort of interview situation or like a contracting situation where your livelihood depends on other people having faith in you versus some arbitrary other person who might be able to do the job, but in a different way, right? So we don't want to admit how much of our freedom depends on faith and other people's faith in us. But for example, this show depends on you voluntarily going to www.funkyacademic.com and kicking in $5, $15, or $50 a month, because I feel some sort of way about putting content behind a paywall, because I want the wisdom to be diffuse amongst the people. So maybe I could clip up certain sections and then put the whole show behind a paywall, but I feel I'm not very comfortable with paywalls in general. I do feel comfortable with clips. I found a clipper, and he's been clipping, and so you should see some clips that have been raised. I'm looking for other clippers, so go ahead and email me at ireme@funkyacademic.com if you're interested in being clipping some of these shows, because it's useful. It's useful. I do not have time to do this. I have my own work to do. But I do want you to know that your freedom depends on faith in your particularization. And it has to be faith. It can't be known, because the other alternative is a rational alternative, and it actually is also justified. And the satisfactions are going to be slightly different. So it has to be faith in your particularization, your commitment to your particularization, regardless of any sort of inner turmoil that is justified, and also faith that other people will appreciate your particularization, because you can't determine them, and that's not going to be determined by reason anyway. They don't have to pick you, and there's no reason why they necessarily should pick you. They just have to pick someone, right? So that it's you. You don't want it to be based purely on luck, but you want them to have faith in something of your activity that can't be justified, the faith that can't be justified by reason alone. It has to be something on top of that. All right. So thank you for your time. And the fear of missing out does screw up people's freedom because it screws up their ability to commit to the particular thing that they are doing. I'll see you next